it was by accident that one of my friends said to me in graduate school, "Why don't you come give a talk on feminist theory?" I said, well, I had read feminist theory. I'd read Simone de Beauvoir, it was very important. I had read Gloria Steinem. I had great respect for her. She also loved philosophy. And I was very involved in feminist debates, so I would read popular feminist books. And I wasn't sure what to say, since it was the first time I was asked to say something in an academic feminist context. So I went back to Beauvoir, Le Deuxième Sexe, and there I found this one passage, which is, of course, perhaps the most famous passage from Beauvoir, where she says that one is not born a woman, but rather becomes one. And I wrote something about this problem of becoming, and I wanted to know: does one actually ever become one, or is it that to be a woman is a mode of becoming without end, a mode of becoming that doesn't end, that has no end or goal? And then I thought, well, maybe you could say the same of gender more generally, that one is not born a man, but rather becomes one. Or perhaps one is born a male or female, but becomes something which is neither a man nor a woman. And it seemed to me that this notion of becoming, devenir, could lead to any number of directions. So I started, I suppose, to formulate a thesis that would later become the central argument of gender trouble.
Elle est toujours là.
Catherine, ton invité.
Allez-y, je vous en prie, c'est un chaos.
Catherine Florian. Voilà, donc c'est moi qui vais animer ce soir. Christine, elle est là-bas.
J'ai mis exprès pour vous.
Et on va monter. Donc Défaire le genre réunit en un recueil des conférences et des articles publiés entre 1999 et 2003 sur la question du genre et de la sexualité. Vous expliquez dans l'introduction que votre pensée a été influencée par le développement ces dernières années des New Gender Politics, c'est-à-dire des nouvelles politiques du genre, qui sont une combinaison de mouvements concernés par le transgenre, la transsexualité, l'intersexualité et leur relation complexe au féminisme et à la théorie queer.
C'est difficile de penser quand il fait chaud.
Je ne vous traduis pas.
Well, I must say that in my view, gender is always a failure. Everyone fails. And it's a very good thing that we fail. Because I think that stereotypes are not just images we have of gender, but they are, we might say, an accumulated effect of social relations that have become naturalized over time. So, for instance, if we think of an image of hyper-masculinity, and we say, oh, this is a stereotype, or we say it's a norm of some kind, it seems to me that implicitly we are talking about relations between masculinity and femininity, femininity, male bodies, female bodies, and how these have become configured over time.
Et par exemple, lorsque nous imaginons, nous pensons à un stéréotype d'hypermasculinité, il ne s'agit pas simplement d'une pure image d'hypermasculinité, mais véritablement d'un effet, d'un certain rapport social entre masculinité et féminité, voire entre corps féminin, corps masculin, et que ces rapports complexes et cet aspect relationnel, en plus, c'est non seulement naturalisé, mais c'est naturalisé avec le temps, de là le caractère historique de l'affaire.
Je voudrais poser une question sur votre critique de l'idéalisation du transgender.
Oh, well, I think it could also be said that transsexuality is a legal category, that there were no transsexuals before there was the legal category for transsexuality. It seems we have to look at what is made medically and technologically possible to understand transsexuality. It seems to me we have to look at what is culturally and artistically made possible through a diverse number of representations and artistic practices. That all of these modes have to be understood as part of what produces various transgendered and transsexual modes of life.
What I worry about is are the situations in which gender as a norm is exercised coercively. That is to say, there's a story that came out around, 8 years ago, of a young man who lived in Maine, and he walked down the street of his small town where he had lived his entire life. And he walks with what we call a swish, a kind of, his hips move back and forth in a feminine way. And as he grew older, 14, 15, 16, that swish, that walk became more pronounced, okay? And it was more dramatically feminine. And he started to be harassed by the boys in the town, and soon 2 or 3 boys stopped his walk. And they fought with him, and they ended up throwing him over a bridge, and they killed him. Okay. So then we have to ask, why would someone be killed for the way they walk? Well, why would that walk be so upsetting to those other boys that they would feel that they must negate this person, they must expunge the trace of this person, they must stop that walk no matter what. They must eradicate the possibility of that person ever walking again. It seems to me that we are talking about an extremely deep panic or fear, an anxiety that pertains to gender norms. And if someone says, you must comply with the norm of masculinity, otherwise you will die, or I kill you now because you do not comply, then we have to start to question what the relation is between complying with gender and coercion.
Ich hatte das Gefühl, dass ich ein bisschen, dass ich brauchte eine Befreiung, eine Emanzipation. Der hat so eine ganz bestimmte Idee von mir, und das hat mit Subversion zu tun oder mit
dem Bedürfnis nach Subversion.
Ja, genau. Ja, bin ich ein Philosophen? Ja, in einem Hinsicht, aber nicht konventionell. Bin ich eine Feministin? Ja, bestimmt. Es gibt keine Frage darüber. Ich bin eine Feministin, aber bin ich auch queer? Ja, bin ich. Aber die Presse hat mich immer, die hat immer so sehr persönliche Fragen an mir.
Meinst du die ganze Zeit seit 93 oder meinst du jetzt nach den Adorno-Vorlesungen?
Nach der Adorno-Vorlesung auch.
Immer noch die persönlichen Fragen
die
nach
persönlichen
Eindeutigkeit.
Fragen und wie ich aussehe.
Auch da Kommentare.
Ja, es gab immer
Es hat sich
Kommentare.
nichts geändert in Deutschland. Also in diesen 7 Jahren, ja?
Ja.
Als du anfingst, die Rezeption, wo der erste Zeitungsartikel sagte, sie hatte eine männliche Erscheinung, vielleicht italienischer Abstammung. Erinnerst du dich?
Genau.
Ja?
Ich erinnere mich daran.
Ja,
Vielleicht
und so ging das
italienisch.
weiter. Ja? Also
Das ging ein bisschen weiter.
Ja.
Und weil ich über den Körper geschrieben habe, dann erwartet man, dass ich in meine eigene Körper darstellen würde, meine Theorie.
Ja,
aber
dass du deine Theorie verkörperst.
ja, aber das tue ich nicht.
Ja.
Das hat mich wirklich verletzt, als die Barbara Duden gesagt hat, dass ich entkörpere, wie sagt man?
Du entkörperst, sie hat dir vorgeworfen, dass du die Frauen entkörperst und dass sie sprach von dir oder deinen Text als Frau ohne Unterleib.
Ja.
Women without a body.
Ja,
Body.
aber das
Ja?
stimmt nicht.
No, she constructed a monster.
Ja, genau.
Ja, und ja.
Ja, genau. Wie manche Leute. Ich habe mich interessiert an Travestie, an Drag Queens, an die Leute, die mit Geschlechtsnormen wirklich. Ich bin nicht so eine Person.
Diese Angst vor Kritik, oder? Das
Ja.
ist paranoid.
Ja, genau.
Ja.
So einerseits.
I've never found a place. I don't think I'll ever find a place. There are many people who argue that we should all have a place, a gendered place. That we should feel at home in our bodies or at one with ourselves. This maybe is a possibility for others. I don't think so. I think if my thinking about this is productive at all, it's for others to judge. It's because I'm always slightly disidentified from any given position. I don't belong well in any established category, but I'm not also somebody who happily transcends them all. I'm not in favor of happy transcendence. For me, gender is a field of ambivalence.
My pals, my friends. Reception committee.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
Hello, I'm Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Very illico.
Oh, good. I hope you know that you're with my friends.
Yes, I've been told.
Okay, good.
So we're all settled upstairs.
Okay, lovely. Hi. Bonjour, comment ça va? Très bien. Vous pouvez parler en français si vous voulez. Je comprends presque tout, mais c'est pas facile pour moi.
Pourquoi est-ce que vous avez rassemblé tous ces textes-là qui couvrent une période assez large en fait,
Oui.
sous le titre Undoing Gender?
Well, I think that another way of naming gender trouble would be doing gender, right? Gender Trouble was taken as a text that described the ways in which people did their gender. It described gender as a kind of doing. So it was all about acting, doing, making, becoming. What various ways can we do our gender? What are the various things we can do with gender? And I think maybe in this text, Défaire le genre, I'm asking a different question, which is, first of all, how do the norms that constitute gender do us and undo us? That is to say, they make us, but they also prevent us from making what we would of ourselves. On the other hand, it seems to me we don't want to say, we never want to be undone again. We only want to do ourselves. That's to privilege a certain idea of self-making that I'm also criticizing. We are inevitably undone by other people. We become undone in our relations with others. We don't always know ourselves. We learn something new about ourselves. We have certain conceptions of ourselves challenged in the course of our relationships. And this kind of challenge that comes from the other, we have to be open to this. Right? If we knew always what we would become, then we would be finished. We would be dead. We would be over. But I think that part of what it means to be a self is to be open to a future that one cannot know. And it's to be open to a future of oneself, right? Like, what will this self be in the future? But that openness only comes about, I think, through the relations with others.
This year, they have chosen to do the queer action movement in Tel Aviv.
In Tel Aviv,
And,
yes, I did hear,
yeah.
yes.
What do you think about this initiative?
Well, my question is whether you can have a struggle for the rights of sexual minorities in Israel that does not consider and oppose unequivocally and strongly the occupation. Now, some people argue, oh, well, if we start talking about the occupation, that will be politically divisive. But the problem is that the occupation is the background for those struggles.
That's the question they're asking.
They must ask it. They must ask it. And I know many people who have not gone to the gay pride marches there because of that. But I want to know explicitly whether we can look at the problem of rights or of legal entitlements in Israel more profoundly. Who has rights to land? Who has rights to citizenship? Who has rights to freedom of expression, to sexual rights, to rights of partnership? Can we locate the struggle for recognition and rights on the part of sexual minorities in relationship to the disenfranchisement of Palestine? And I think these have to be linked very explicitly and structurally.
What would you think it would change in those institutions, such as marriage or parentality, if we had those rights? Do you think that it would change something to marriage, if gay and lesbian had marriage, or it would more change something to gay and lesbians? How is this going to interfere?
Well, I want to answer your question directly, but I'm tempted to take a small detour.
Yes.
I think it's extremely important for a radical sexual movement to keep in mind that marriage is only one way of organizing sexuality and organizing kinship, parenté. And so I think marriage does have to open. I suppose it has to open to any two people who may want to join in a marriage contract, although I don't know why it only is two. Why two?
Why two? Yeah.
Why two?
Why two and not three?
I don't
Four?
understand the two. But I gather it just feels too radical, for most people to say more than two. But I don't really understand why two. I think we should ask the question.
Three, four,
whatever.
five.
I don't know.
However.
I don't know. But I think that marriage does change. I mean, it doesn't always change when it becomes gay, right? You can have in fact, sometimes it becomes almost parotically traditional. Sometimes there's almost a resurrection of a traditional notion of marriage that no heterosexual is actually living in anymore. Let's hope that these are marriages that breathe. Let's hope they're marriages that are more open. Let's hope they're marriages that are part of a broader social fabric and community. Let's hope that these are marriages that can rethink the relationship between personal life and property relations. Like, do you have to have property in common? How do you raise children if you do? Is it just the two of you? Can it be more? Let's hope that some of the norms that have made marriage into a narrow and restrictive institution can and will change when and if gay people get married.
I think that